So maybe we can go back to, we haven't really talked about gameplay in Gears, and I think that's actually important because coming from, a studio that puts out something like Unreal Tournament, which is like Twitch gaming at its core, and it's like really about like big online competitive gaming, and then to do Gears, which is, there have been a couple of other cover shooters before, but it's kind of become known as it's like the poster child of sort of starting the cover shooter revolution, which we see in everything from Mass Effect to GTA 4 to Red Dead Redemption. Everybody seems to use cover nowadays in some way. What was the decision? Because that obviously does change pacing quite a lot to make cover and sort of like to slowing it down, putting it in third person. Like, why go that route?
Well, it was us transitioning from the PC roots and the Twitch PC roots of having the perfect pinpoint accuracy controls of the keyboard and the mouse to dual analog. If you go back and you really look at Halo's actually a very sluggish game. The speed at which you move, how you jump, you almost feel like you're kind of moving through like this low gravity type jello. But that actually makes the game very playable as a result, right? Call of Duty, to be fair, is actually a little bit more twitchy, which has resonated very well with players and actually plays quite different than Halo. Gears, we wanted to slow it down. We wanted the players to feel like tanks. We wanted them to slam into cover. We wanted the player to really feel like he's interacting with the world. And it was a deliberate, conscious decision as we put it on console. The thing that has always made me laugh was when Gears came out, and there's all these quotes about, like, why is this game big? This game's not innovative. And then after there, every game starts having cover. The roadie run suddenly starts appearing everywhere. Co-op becomes this thing that you now have to have in so many games, and even story-based co-op. The Y button to look at stuff is in like so many games right now, right? And I'll take that. I think that's awesome, right? Even though active reload's barely been picked up.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Because I think that's one of the best mechanics in the game.
It's actually in Spy Party. Have you seen that?
Really?
Yeah, Chris Secker's game. There's when you're playing as the spy. And have you guys seen that game?
Yeah, I saw it down on the floor.
Yeah.
It's actually surprisingly effective. We were playing it yesterday, and my girlfriend's she's the sniper, and I'm trying to act like an AI, and I'm deliberately trying to like run into walls to look like it's stupid and stuff like that, right? And I see the laser come over, and I'm like, shit, don't move. And then it moves over again, and I'm trying. And so when you try and complete the objectives, you're like trying to take some microfiche or something off of a shelf. To get it smoothly, you have to do a little active reload mini game, and then go over there. And I'm like, oh, why is this active reload in this game? And I'm trying to act like an AI. And I walk over, and pop, I get popped, and I'm like, God damn it! It was actually surprisingly effective, but that was one that wound up winding up in another game. And I'll take it. I mean, if players, designers out there want to lift some of the things we do, it's just flattering, right? It's cool. Vanquish was awesome. I wish I had multiplayer though.
I didn't dig it. I couldn't get into it.
Really?
I don't know why.
I feel Vanquish actually breaks some of the rules you were talking about before as far as taking control away from the player, like getting knocked down and that sort of very Japanese feedback loop.
I think that was
that
was a little bit of the Lost Planet legacy, right?
Yeah.
Whenever Lost Planet is a cool title, the second one did a lot of cool stuff. That giant slug boss was amazing. The Marcus and Dom cameo was great, but my frustration when I would play Lost Planet 1 in particular was I kept hearing that Chumbawamba song in my head. Right? It's all get knocked down, but I get up again.
Thanks. Everybody who's watching this will now have that in their head for the rest of their lives.
Also, I think we have to pay $500 out, don't we?
It's the licensing fees and everything we're paying. Yeah, I mean, that's pinning the player down like that. You have to be really careful if you ever do it. That's one of those things. And so in a lot of the things, the stuns in Gears 3 are just top half only. So your character might go like this, and you can't shoot for a quarter of a second, but you can still kind of move around, right? You got to be very, very careful when you do that kind of thing. Like active reload, if you screw up your active reload, you can't fire, and it's actually by design, right? You're stuck because you made a conscious decision to opt into that.
And it punishes you brutally if you fail,
and
depending on the weapon.
I mean, anything that's instant death is generally pretty telegraphed in the Gears of War games.
Yeah, we tried it.
And Vanquish is less good about that.
Yeah, I think I was just playing on an easier difficulty, honestly, because for me it felt like if Gears was like the 1800s coal-powered train, that's kind of going through the Wild Wild West, that Vanquish felt like the Japanese bullet train version of that, which I saw a ton of potential there. The slide was really, really great. The boss battles are nuts. And bosses, by the way, as a game developer, if I can confide in you guys, because I would never tell anybody else this, bosses are a nightmare, man, from a development standpoint. They're a giant pain in the ass because you put so many man-months into a 10-minute encounter. Whereas you could spend those man-months to make a new enemy that you could then fight a whole bunch of times throughout the game, or a new weapon they could use a bunch. It's this one-off. The plant boss in Bulletstorm? That took like months. And it's a cool boss fight, but it's like, which you probably breezed through in about 15 seconds.
It's one of the less interesting parts of the game.
To be fair, but it's a giant plant, dude.
It is a giant plant with balls growing off.
Exactly.
And that's why there are some games that just don't do bosses. And when
Bungie gets away with that.
Well, Bungie didn't, though, in Halo 2. They actually did have a boss fight at the end of Halo 2, and it was terrible. There was a big brute chieftain guy. It was terrible.
But I love the scarabs were great.
Yeah,
the giant.
Yeah, those are cool. Because that's not. It doesn't have the same feeling of like a normal boss battle where it's like you kind of come to the scene and it goes like, this is the end of the level. Now you will fight this big boss kind of thing. It's like it just feels like a natural integration.
Well, it's the level is a boss fight. The encounter is a boss fight, as opposed to you will shoot my jetpacks now and then I'll transform into stage 3, right?
Yeah. The scarab is a thing where you're challenged to complete it, as opposed to you have to do this one task over and over again.
And then there's gating, right?
Yeah, you can kill a scarab like that in Halo if you know exactly what you need to do. Whereas, say a boss in Vanquish, you have to keep shooting him and then he flies away and laughs at you and there's banter and then you have to keep shooting him again. And it's sort of wearying at times.
No, is that like kind of an old school mentality about game design versus new school, like the classic?
I think it might be. It does seem rooted in the quarter munching philosophy of action games from like the 80s.
When you were saying that go off and like cackle at me, I was picturing those House of the Dead bosses that had that really high pitched squeaky voice, right? Like, I will get you.
Yeah. Definitely.
It's hard to believe, but we've actually managed to go an entire hour like that. Wow. But I know Ryan has one sort of final wrap-up question about your past in gaming and your love for Nintendo.
Oh, yeah. So there was some question around the office of, so your high score in Super Mario Brothers was in the first issue of Nintendo Power, right?
Yeah, it was also in the last issue of the Nintendo Fun Club.
Okay, so how did you know to send your score in to a magazine that didn't exist yet?
Because it was from the Nintendo Fun Club.
So they said, we're starting a magazine.
No, it was the continuation. So what? This
it was the newsletter.
Yeah, it was the Nintendo Fun Club that Howard Phillips was spearheading, right? And they had it had Zelda 2 on the cover at one point. It had Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, and they were saying send in your high scores at that point. And so I took played Mario, got through almost to the end, and then just hopped in the shell and repeatedly went doing, right? And then took the Polaroid of it and then mailed it to Redmond, and then they just used those for the first publication.
So you didn't even know that was going to be in a magazine. You thought it was just going to be a fun.
I thought it was going to be in the Nintendo Fun Club. I didn't know it was going to be in Nintendo Power. But when I heard about Nintendo Power, I camped my mailbox, man. Like when that first issue showed up with like little clay thing about Super Mario 2, like and the smell of that's the thing about I'm going to miss manuals, right? And I'm glad they're going away as a creative, but as a person, I miss that smell of that ink. Like when I first saw the Zelda manual, and I could still smell it to this day, and that sense of mystery that it had.
We're all holding in a laugh because we have an employee who still opens up every new game and he actually smells the manuals.
It's funny, like I was in Toys R Us recently. I hadn't been to Toys R Us for years, right? So my wife and I go into Toys R Us, and I look over at the video game section, which is a shadow of what it used to be in my mind, because I remember going into that Toys R Us, beautiful wall of game cards, the Nintendo boxes, right? And it was like being in like, I don't know, heaven or something, and it's just not. I wonder if it's the same for kids now, or if they're so used to like downloading stuff. And
I hate to sound like an old fart, but it's a kind of an entitled generation, and talking about Scott Pilgrim, and Scott Pilgrim's the movie of this generation. The problem is this generation doesn't pay for shit, right? And my nephew's sitting there playing Call of Duty with a modded controller, texting his teenage girlfriend while he's listening to YouTube songs that he didn't buy, right? And so it's kind of the way the world is right now, and we'll see where it goes moving forward.
Cool. Well, that is all the time that we have. Thanks again, Cliff, for coming by and talking some Gears with us. Don't forget, you can get into the Gears beta pretty easily. All you have to do is either pre-order Gears of War 3 or buy yourself a copy of Bulletstorm on Xbox 360. So for Cliff, for Ryan, for Arthur, I'm Hillary Goldstein, and we'll see you next time.